The reason your mind feels chaotic and overwhelmed isn't your workload. It's the relentless visual noise of your environment. We're going to show you the counterintuitive strategy that proves less stuff doesn't just mean a cleaner house, it means a calmer, instantly focused brain.
Okay, let's really unpack this. This isn't just some clever saying, it's a diagnosis. You know, we've all been trained to believe the solution to feeling overwhelmed is to add something, right? A new productivity app, a better planner, another organizational system. But here's the paradox. True mental clarity doesn't come from addition. It comes from strategic, even ruthless, subtraction. Every single object in your field of vision, every icon on your screen, it makes a tiny withdrawal from your finite bank of mental energy. In this explainer, we're going to show you exactly how to get that energy back.
So we've structured this as a complete masterclass for you to reclaim your focus. First, we'll uncover the hidden source of chaos that's draining you. Then, we'll look at what clutter is actually doing to your brain, neurologically speaking. After that, we'll give you a powerful 3-part subtraction framework to take back control. Then, we'll get into the incredible neurological payoff. Next up, a precise 3-step action plan you can start today. And finally, we'll boil it all down to the one thing you need to know for mastering effortless focus. So, let's start with that core paradox of more. We operate under this belief that having more stuff, more tools, more books, more options gives us more freedom, more capability. But the exact opposite is true. Every single item you own imposes this invisible cognitive tax. Think of it like a little bit of your brain's processing power, like a tiny sliver of RAM that's just constantly running in the background to keep track of that thing. You have to store it, clean it, maintain it, and just see it. This is the hidden source of the chaos you feel. It's not your to-do list, it's the environment you're trying to work in.
Now let's get into the science of why this tax is so ridiculously costly. This has nothing to do with being a neat freak or your personality type. This is a straight-up neurological diagnosis. Your ability to focus isn't just a matter of willpower, it is fundamentally dictated by the state of your environment. To win the war for our attention, we first have to understand what is happening inside our heads when we're surrounded by clutter.
The real enemy we're fighting here is something called visual and digital noise. Here's how to think about it. Every single object on your desk, every file on your computer desktop, every app on your phone is a tiny question mark aimed right at your brain. What am I? What you need to do with me? Should you be paying attention to me right now? And even if you consciously ignore them, your brain has to subconsciously process and then dismiss every single one. This is what leads to something called cognitive fragmentation, where your focus is being shattered into 100 tiny pieces before you even start the main task. And this right here, this illustrates the battleground, your prefrontal cortex. This is the CEO of your brain, okay? It's responsible for planning, deep thinking, and directing your attention. On the left, you see its ideal state in an orderly environment. Its full capacity is dedicated to the task at hand. This is the state that allows for deep work, that incredibly valuable focused flow state we're all chasing. Now, look at the right. In a cluttered environment, that same CEO is being constantly interrupted. The pile of papers, the 20 open browser tabs, they're all shouting for attention. Your prefrontal cortex has to burn energy just to suppress these distractions, which taxes its capacity and fuels decision fatigue. Deep work becomes neurologically impossible.
And the cost of this isn't just mental, it's physiological. A cluttered environment is scientifically proven to elevate cortisol, the body's main stress hormone. See, when your brain perceives disorder, it interprets it as a loss of control, a whole field of unresolved tasks. And that triggers a low-level chronic stress response. It's that feeling of having a dozen low-priority alarms going off in your head all at once. You might not feel stressed out, but your body is operating from this baseline of anxiety and distraction, making calm, focused work nearly impossible. Clutter is quite literally a stress signal to your nervous system.
So, we've diagnosed the problem. Now let's talk about the cure. This is the subtraction framework. And I really want you to stop thinking of minimalism as an aesthetic. It's not about white walls and a single plant. Think of it as a precise, strategic operating system for your life, designed to do one thing and one thing only: remove external friction to create internal, psychological stability. This operating system is built on 3 core pillars. Now, these aren't just suggestions, they are the rules of engagement for defending your focus. First up is functional pruning. The second is visual scarcity. And the third, the secret to making it all stick, is a maintenance system called the one-in, one-out rule. Let's break down each one. Okay, the key phrase on this slide is actively add value. This is the very heart of functional pruning. It's a necessity audit that goes way beyond, is this useful? You need to pick up an item and ask, does the value this thing gives me outweigh the cognitive cost of owning it?
That pen on your desk might technically work, but if you hate the way it feels, it has a negative cognitive value. That stack of magazines you plan to read someday? It's not adding value. It's a constant reminder of an unfinished task, broadcasting a message of failure. This audit has to be ruthless. If an item isn't a hell yes, it's a no.
Pillar 2, visual scarcity, is your frontline defense. The rule here is incredibly simple. A clear surface is your default state. This goes for your desk, your kitchen counter, and maybe most importantly, your digital desktop. Every object needs a designated home, and when it's not in active use, it goes back to that home, period. This isn't just about being tidy. It's about creating a psychological clean slate. When you sit down to work at a clear desk, your brain isn't met with a visual to-do list. It's met with a calm, open space, signaling that it's time to focus on the one thing that actually matters.
So we've covered the what of the framework. Now let's get into the why. What is the immediate, measurable neurological payoff when you put this system into practice? Why does it work so darn effectively and so quickly? Well, the first and most immediate payoff is a measurable drop in your cortisol levels. As we said, a cluttered environment signals chaos and a lack of control to your brain's threat detection center. But an orderly environment does the opposite. It signals safety, predictability, and control. And that signal of control is absolutely key. It calms your brain down, which in turn tells your body to stop pumping out all those stress hormones. You literally feel calmer because you are physiologically calmer.
Now, here's what happens next, and this is crucial. When your brain is no longer wasting energy managing visual noise and pumping out cortisol, all of that processing power is liberated. This number just illustrates the concept. By getting rid of those extra stimuli, you free up a huge chunk of your prefrontal cortex's working memory. It's like closing all the unnecessary apps running in the background of your computer. Suddenly, the main program, your primary task, runs faster, smoother, and without any lag. You're not just more focused, you literally have more raw brain power available for what's important.
So, to wrap up the payoff, you get 3 core benefits that create this amazing upward spiral. First, you alleviate chronic stress by directly lowering your cortisol. Second, you boost your working memory by freeing your prefrontal cortex from the job of managing distractions. And third, by reducing the sheer number of choices and items that need managing, you prevent decision fatigue. This preserves your finite reserve of executive function for the critical, high-value work that actually moves your life forward.
All right, enough with the theory and the science. Let's get tactical. This is your 3-step action plan to implement this system right now. This isn't some long-term project. You can start this in the next 10 minutes and feel the benefits today. This is where the real change begins. These are the 3 non-negotiable steps, and I want you to notice the order. We start with the digital declutter. Why? Because for most of us, our digital world is where the cognitive load is highest and the noise is most relentless. Then, we move to the physical world with the Necessity Audit. And finally, we install a system for frictionless maintenance so you never slide back into chaos. Let's dig in. Okay, first, the physical necessity audit. We're going to use the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. This chart basically shows that for most of us, 80% of our clutter is made up of things we rarely, if ever, use. So here's your mission. Pick one cluttered zone, your desk, a bookshelf, even just one drawer. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Your only goal is to target that 80% of stuff you haven't touched in the last 90 days. Don't debate it. If it hasn't served a purpose in 3 months, its main purpose now is just to be cognitive noise. Box it up. If after another month you haven't needed anything from that box, let it go. Be decisive. Now for step 3, making this all effortless to maintain. These 2 simple rules are your defense system. The put it away rule prevents the daily creep of chaos. Everything has a home and it lives there unless it's in use. No exceptions. Done with the scissors? They go back in the drawer, not on the counter. The one in, one out rule is your defense against long-term accumulation. You buy a new sweater, an old one gets donated. You download a new app, an old one gets deleted. This creates a closed-loop system that makes it impossible for clutter to build back up. It is the firewall for your focus. And that brings us to our final and most important takeaway. If you remember absolutely nothing else from this entire explainer, please let it be this core principle for mastering effortless focus.
Clutter is a neurological burden. It is not a moral failing, it's not a personality trait. It is a tangible, measurable weight on your brain's processing capacity. And when you stop seeing your environment as a collection of things and start seeing it as a collection of demands on your attention, the whole game changes. You stop organizing clutter, and you start eliminating it. So let me ask you, are you going to keep adding more systems to try and manage the chaos? Or are you ready to master the art of subtraction? You know, the framework we've just walked through solves that central problem of our time: cognitive fragmentation and chronic stress. And why this all matters so much is that it gives you a systematic way to conserve your most precious resource, your executive function, and to finally gain that sense of peace and control.
This framework of pruning and scarcity, it directly hacks your psychology. It lowers your cortisol, and it maximizes the depth of your working memory. Because ultimately, productivity isn't about doing more, it's about mastering systems that make focus effortless. So here's your challenge. Starting right now, perform a 5-minute digital declutter. Clear every single icon from your computer's desktop. Move them all into a single folder. Work like that for just one day. Feel the difference. That is the first step to reclaiming your mind.